Welcome to Victory or Death, the podcast for content creators. My name's Elijah, and these are my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Cameron Boozard-Jamari, host of Sweating the Small Stuff and the Wildcard Cameron YouTube channel.
Hi, I'm Keon Boozard-Jamari, host of the Life Advice with Keon podcast and the YouTube channel Frameforge.
Hi, I'm Marco Namowitz, creator of the T-blog Steeped.
Thank you for being here, everyone. You'll notice that Keon is subbing for Dan this month. He needed a month off, and so we get Keon's sweet baritone.
You're welcome, Dan.
You're so saucy.
You owe me everything.
So saucy. But seriously, thank you for being here, guys. I mean, anyone paying attention and not living in Germany on a TV show where they don't know what's going on, Big Brother Germany, things are not great. We're not going to talk about it this episode, but I hope everyone is well. I hope that you're healthy, and I hope that you are either gainfully employed or you have emergency funds to ride this thing out. It's not a great time for everyone, but hopefully for content creators, it's more okay. Today, we are going to be talking about the work from home survival kit. This applies for anyone who is working from home now or has figured out a way to start making money while their main job is kind of on hold. This one's going to be hosted by Keon. Let's get this going.
Hey guys. So the main thing I wanted to tackle today, and especially get all of your opinions on it, because I think all of us do have some experience with working from home, is what steps do you take while working from home to not only stay sane, like keep your own, schedule or routine, as well as your best practices when working from home, like your best practices about like packaging your work so you're not always working. And the last thing, like we mentioned, how to make money from home. So how any of those other different side hustles you might be doing to make some money while you might not be doing your main gig. So to start off, I think the first thing would be how to take care of yourself. So what is a routine that you guys might do to make sure that you're staying sane? For me, the biggest one is definitely exercise. I need to make sure that I go out and I work on my body a little bit, and for me in particular, I go for a really long jog, about an hour. And that is just time for me it becomes more meditative because you're really just doing one motion for an entire hour, and it lets your brain kind of cycle through what it's even thinking about, like what in the recesses of your mind you've been letting go, because it's easy to go on autopilot. So for me, working out and doing some exercise really helps me stay into a routine and not get bogged down by everything that I'm doing at home and realizing that I might just be, going in a cycle. So what do you guys do to help yourselves in a routine when you're working from home?
Yeah, I think this is just generally good advice for anyone who's going to be working from home or is spending a lot of time kind of stuck in the same place, because there's lots of reasons. Like, you might not necessarily be working from home, but you could be stuck at a job where you're more or less in the same location over and over again. And you're totally right. Routine helps a ton. Like, I literally take a marker and write on the mirror in my office exactly the things I'm going to do each day at every specific time. And then it's not like I'm going to go and like make sure I record and do this and that. It's just like at 10 a.m., I'm going to make sure I've eaten something. And at noon, I'm going to take a break and eat lunch or go for a walk or whatever I can do. And just making sure that you tell yourself, like, it doesn't matter how much work you're doing or what kind of groove you're in. Because if you keep working through the times you're supposed to be taking breaks, you're going to burn out real fast.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think one of the to second that is keeping your routine almost as normal as possible. What time do you wake up? Making sure that you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself that space to take extra care of yourself and others that are around you. And then I like to kind of put myself in positions that I normally don't find myself in, especially during this time. So I might work from another room that I'm not used to, or just give myself a different perspective, because it allows me to kind of have something new while still being in the same environment.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because normally when you think of like taking a break, you're thinking of like, I'm going to go and do something completely different from this thing, something completely foreign, but you can still kind of take a break where you're just not in the same location. Like I can think of even when I was working in the office, I would be at my desk and decide I need to take a break where I could go work maybe at the lunch table area or go work in one of the project areas where my other colleagues were congregating just to kind of all work together. So you're not necessarily taking a break from work. You're just taking a break from the monotony you were just in.
Yeah. And when it comes to working, even though you might be working from home and have a really nice desktop, having a laptop can be invaluable where you're going and moving to wherever you want to be. And Matt Diavella has a really good YouTube channel where he talks about different ways to stay productive. And one of the guests that he had on said that there is like a minimal return, like a minimal threshold of novelty that helps you do something that makes it more exciting. So going to a cafe and studying it, this one guy used an example of like studying a math textbook, and he was really excited because when he went to a cafe, that little bit of novelty added to the experience of studying a math textbook, even though if he was at home, he wouldn't want to do it. And the same thing for working is if you can find that novel area that adds the little bit of spice to it, you'll find that your work becomes exponentially more exciting than if you were at the same desk all the time.
And there's an opportunity there to do, I think, kind of in that same vein, temptation bundling. So if I know I'm going to be doing work, maybe I reward myself by only listening to a specific song or a specific podcast when I'm doing that work, if that's something I can do. I know this is a weird thing to say, but I have this weird ability to listen to podcasts while doing work. And everyone I tell about this is like, this is the most insane thing. And it's like not like normal monotonous, like just cranking out the same task over and over again. It's like I can sit there and write a document while listening to a podcast. So I'll only try to listen to certain podcasts when I'm like working out or doing that specific work.
I don't even remotely understand how you do that. That's
insane.
Yeah, like
that's
so
weird how I can do that.
The only way that I'm ever able to do something like that is when I already like have done the work of like writing out what I'm going to be writing on like a notepad and then kind of jumping in, putting that out there and then, you know, making my edits because I don't necessarily need to have clarity of thought to do, you know, copy editing and like tweaking phrasing and stuff. But yeah, dude, you're crazy. What?
Well, nice to know I'm weird, guys. Nice to know this is a safe space.
Well, it's like, I don't know how you keep that kind of focus because I mean, there's and I legitimately in my mind, and I've from the other like resources I've pulled from have found that like multitasking in general doesn't particularly work. There's a very specific amount of the or a small percentage of the population that can do it well. And for most people, like there's really it's monotasking works the best where you spend the time. So instead of in an hour, you try to do 3 things, maybe 20 minutes do that individual one of those individual things 20 minutes at a time, and that gives you more focus. That I've seen not only in myself but most advice that I've heard, and so it just blows my mind that you're like, yeah, no, I just do this all the time. It's no big deal for me.
I think an important caveat for me is like I don't consider it multitasking because I'll admit I'm not always 100% absorbing the content. There's a bit of cocktail party effect where I can hear certain words and things and they'll pull me back into what I'm listening to. So maybe in a way it's a little bit of background noise as well.
Maybe in a way it's totally awful and you shouldn't do it.
I just like to listen to Stephen Dubner when I'm working and just listen to his docet tones tell me about the economy and Freakonomics while I'm writing up this new document or working on this other thing over here or whatever I do.
I do have a couple friends. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Marco.
I do have a couple friends that will put on like cafe background noise while they work just to put themselves back in their native environment. If they're constantly, you know, they find that they do most of their work in a cafe setting, that helps restore some of that.
Yeah.
That's
and
a good point, yeah.
Yeah, Vox actually had a really good YouTube video that I watched a while ago, and I think it was Vox, but there's a YouTube video about why that whole YouTube channel, which I think got recently shut down, called Hip Hop Beats to Study and Relax To. that channel uses lo-fi hip hop, and lo-fi uses quote unquote beta waves, but it's mostly they put a low pass filter on the music, so you don't have those like hi-hats and really high like sound effects and tones that you'll hear. Those ones are more distracting. Lower frequencies are easier for you to just kind of veg out and get more focused with. So that's why like that entire stream got so huge, is because not only going to a coffee shop and being separated from people, you don't usually hear as much conversation, and it becomes a nice background like beta wave to allow your brain to slip into focus. Same thing for lo-fi hip hop beats to study and chill out to and whatever.
So actually, I think this is opportunity to segue, because so like we're talking about like places that we could go or that we want to make the vibe of. But when you're stuck at home, when you're working from home, the expectation is a lot of times you just end up at home. Maybe you can't go to a coffee shop because they're closed, or maybe you don't really feel like getting in the car and going somewhere. So when you guys are setting up your home office or home workspace or whatever, what kind of things do you guys want, and what kind of things do you try real hard to avoid?
If I can start, because I've had a lot of experience working from home lately.
Sure.
So at the end of last year, and I'm not going to bore everyone with the details, I had a pretty severe digestive illness that I needed to get fixed with surgery.
Oh man.
And it was affecting my ability to be at work when I was working my contract gig with Kohl's. And so they let me work from home because I had a pretty bad episode at work that was really scary, and I can't control like how this thing works, and so I need to work from home. They let me do that very graciously, and I kind of had a run of like bad work from home habits. So basically, my job was super boring and super repetitive. And I was writing long form copy, but it was just really uninteresting. And so I kind of got into a habit with it, and we were only expected to do like 2 or 3 pieces a day, so I would just get them done as quickly as I could, and like the actual writing team would just go in and edit everything, so I wasn't responsible for edits. And so basically I would just set up my laptop on the corner of our bar counter in our apartment and just write for a couple hours standing up, and then as soon as I was done or I needed a break, I would just go and sit and watch TV or play video games, which was really dumb. Not a good thing. I don't recommend doing that. Like when you're at work, you should be at work. It's okay to take breaks, but like that was kind of the bad side, where I was just I would push through as much as I could and wouldn't be thoughtful. Whereas if I was actually at work, I would take more time to actually like do it thoughtfully. So now I'm working from home again, and I have developed more of a routine with all of that, because we have a 7:30 meeting 3 times a week. So I have to be up, earlier, have to be ready to rock and roll. I can't come into the meeting being like, what? I'm not awake yet. And so I sit up at our, we have like a tall table with like some bar height chairs. And so I sit there, set up for the meeting. If my wife is going to be leaving to go into the office, because she's kind of doing a half at home, half at work kind of schedule. If she's going to be leaving for work, I just set up at this desk here, but otherwise I set up with my laptop. I'm all ready to go. I wait to have my coffee and I wait to have breakfast until after the meeting, so that I'm forced to be alert. So I don't lean on coffee to do that. And then from there, I set a little schedule for myself, and I say, okay, I need to get this thing, and this thing done. And kind of, if I'm not feeling like I can do like whatever my really immediate task is until later, I try to, find things that I can kind of chip away at until I'm like awake and ready to go, the same way that I would do if I'm at the office.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good. The best thing in my mind that I found that really helps is making sure that you have your tasks when you're sitting in an office. From what I found with being in the corporate space, usually sitting there doing very little and feeling like, oh, I'm really bored. Oh, I guess I'll do my work. And so it becomes this, I'm stuck here for 8 hours. I might as well be productive. When you're at home, there's a lot of distractions. So having a specific space where I can go here and I can work, that's good. And focus and make sure that's built to be that helps you focus. So if there's certain plants that you like, you can keep them there that make that add to your focus. Or if you don't like anything and like it really minimalistic, get rid of anything and have that space that you know is conducive to your focus, but also make sure that you have another space where this is like the couch is not for working. I do not bring my laptop to the couch. That's where I only have my Switch and nothing else. Like that is where I go to play. This is where I go to work. And on top of that, like Elijah mentioned, which is really good, is having a list of things you want to do. And for when you're planning out your day, make sure to be very authentic with yourself. Don't say, oh, well, I can write this thing in half an hour, when in reality, you've done it before. And it might have taken half an hour when you were really focused, but you might, if on the schedule of your day, you only allocate like very small, you're just like, okay, cool, I'll butt all these things together and I'll do them all individually very quickly. Unfortunately, that's not how your brain works a lot of the time, and you might need to take a break and or get back into the flow and make sure that you're in the right mindset to do your work. So the one I really love this because it's always worked out for me, and it's an advice that a lot of people give in a different a bunch of different facets of life, but take whatever you think you're going to be doing, however long it takes you, multiply that number by pi. So 3.14. It works so well because it's not only sometimes things really just do take 3 times as long as you feel like you can do it, because you're being a little bit more like, yeah, I could do, no big deal. I could get that done. Are you kidding me? Give yourself a little bit more time, because Southwest actually did this. They started saying, oh, well, this flight is going to take 2 hours. We're going to say it's going to take 2.5 hours or 3 hours. So not only do the people that are on the plane be like, oh, cool, we got there early. Great. If it does take longer, guess what? They didn't lie to you. So cool. It works out great for everybody. So if you're being generous with yourself in time, you also can feel better about yourself. If you load up your checklist for the day with 20 items, then you're going to feel bad if you don't do all of them. But if you give yourself a little bit more time, you can do it more effectively.
I like that. Under promise, over deliver.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's especially helpful because most of us, if we're working from home, we're not alone in this space. Mm-hmm. We've got our partners, we've got pets, and that kind of changes the game, because those are individuals or entities that are, where we want to spend more time with. So I like that.
Actually, I would say that brings up an important thing, which is understanding, especially when you have a spouse or partners or just family around, communication and understanding are very important to being able to work from home successfully. Because when I'm at home and like my partner's in a meeting, I really need to make sure that I'm conveying to her like, oh, I'm also going to be in a meeting, so I'll be in another room or this or that. Because like it starts off as I'm trying to be polite and make sure that I'm not in their way, but then it turns into, do they not want to hang out with me? Am I being annoying? Things like, it's so weird how you can sit in absolutely close proximity to someone and have a terrible time explaining exactly what you're doing and why. And while to you it's just work, and at work no one really cares that much what you're doing. Like honestly, if you're ever worried at work that people care a lot about what you're doing, they probably don't. They're busy with their own stuff. Yeah, it's okay to feel however you're feeling doing your work. Just make sure you're delivering on what you promised on. But when you're at home and you're in a place where you need to have a quiet office because you're about to take an important call with a sponsor or business partner or whatever, or you just need to focus because you really need to deliver on something, and you're stuck at home or you don't really want to go out, or this is the place you feel most comfortable doing your work, being able to clearly communicate and be open with your partner or whoever you're working near is very important.
Yeah, I talk to my cat all the time about my boundaries, and he's really I mean, I don't have a cat, I'm sorry. But something that I think...
I have the exact opposite problem. I talk to our cat about my boundaries all the time, and she's like, that's cool, but what if you played with me right now? Like all the time. No, but come back. Where are you going? No, put the yarn back out of the box.
Well, and something that I think Marco, Elijah, and Cameron all touched upon that I think is incredibly important about living your life, but especially working at home, is being very self-aware. If you understand, I work best at these hours of the day, then you can capitalize on that time more than trying to make yourself work at 6 a.m. when you know you're not going to be that productive, or whatever time of day. You could be a morning person. I'm a morning person when I work, but knowing not only what you need to succeed, but making sure that you're executing on that and letting the people around you know what you might need. And if you right now are listening, you're like, I don't know what I need to succeed. Well, there's some really good ways that you can keep track of your metrics. You can keep track of the biggest thing that I found that people do is they'll make a big, silly, odd spreadsheet of the time of the day. And for 1 week, they'll type in what they did and be very shrewd with that. Make sure that you are writing exactly what you did for that time period. Track all of your hours, and you will find that you might not be as productive as you think, and what times you are more productive. And the best thing that you can have are metrics. Like Google will tell you, like any of the online resources will tell you, the more metrics you have, the better that you can monitor yourself and find what works best for you working from home and being productive.
That's great. Thank you. Keon, time to become the ceremonial Dan. Bring us home.
Let's go. So the way that that you can best optimize your time working from home is to first and foremost, the number one bullet point is be as self-aware as possible. Understand what helps you the most working in general, and then applying that to your space at home. So the items around you, and you're making sure that you have a space that is designated for work, and what items that you need to surround yourself with or maybe get rid of that will allow you to focus as much as possible. And in that same vein, making sure that when you're working there, you can also switch things up by either moving to a different location every once in a while to spice up your workflow and keep you focused. Maybe put some stuff on in the background like lo-fi hip-hops to study and relax to, or the sounds of a coffee shop. But also making sure that you are taking care of yourself in the way that you know you need to be taken care of, which for me and other people is exercise and hollowing out that time of your day to give yourself that gift of either meditation or something that keeps you level and allows you to work as effectively because you are taking care of yourself as well as doing your work.
Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to check us out on Facebook and Reddit and Twitter if you want to keep up with our content. Please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you have any questions, please email us at victordeathmedia@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to lend a hand and help you solve your content creation problem. We'll see you guys on the next one.